Once upon a time there was a king. My little viewers will shout all at once. No, children, you are mistaken. Once upon a time there was a piece of wood. It wasn't a beautiful piece of wood, only a plain block of wood, one of those that are burned in winter to heat stoves and fireplaces. One day this piece of wood happened to come into the shop of an old carpenter named Mastro Antonio, but everyone called him Mastro Cherry because of the tip of his nose, which was always red and shiny like a ripe cherry. Mastro Cherry was very happy to find that piece of wood, and he took it home to immediately make a table leg. Just as he was about to start working, he heard a tiny voice that said, "Please be careful, don't hit me too hard." Mastro Cherry looked around in surprise. Seeing no one, he thought he must have imagined it. He picked up his tools and began carving again. "Ouch, that hurts," cried the same tiny voice. This time, Mastro Cherry was certain the voice had come from the piece of wood. Terrified, he threw the wood to the floor and stepped back. At that moment, his friend Geppetto entered the shop, looking for wood to make a puppet. Seeing the block on the floor, he asked, "May I have this wood, Mastro Cherry?" Mastro Cherry gladly gave it to him, relieved to get rid of the strange piece of wood. Geppetto took the wood home and began to carve his puppet, dreaming of creating a boy who could help him in his old age. Geppetto worked diligently on the puppet, and when he finished the head, he was startled to see the eyes looking right at him. As he added the nose, something odd happened. The nose grew longer and longer until it became ridiculously large. Geppetto had to cut it down several times before it stopped growing. Next he carved the mouth. No sooner was it done than the mouth began to laugh and mock him. "Stop laughing," Geppetto said, but the puppet paid no attention. As soon as the arms and legs were attached, the puppet jumped up and ran out of the door. "Come back, Pinocchio!" shouted Geppetto, chasing after him through the streets. Pinocchio, though, was too fast, and Geppetto was soon arrested for disturbing the peace, as the villagers believed he was mistreating a poor innocent boy. Pinocchio returned home alone and sat down to think. Suddenly he heard a voice saying, "You should have gone to school like a good boy." Pinocchio looked up to see a talking cricket on the wall. The cricket advised him to behave and go to school, but Pinocchio stubbornly refused. "I'm tired of being told what to do," he said, and in a fit of rage threw a hammer at the cricket. The cricket dodged the blow, but he warned Pinocchio that bad boys never come to a good end. Pinocchio didn't listen. Instead, he went to bed, determined to live life his own way. The next day, Pinocchio decided to attend school, but immediately ran into temptation. He saw a puppet show, and instead of buying school books with the money Geppetto gave him, he spent it on a ticket to see the show. Inside the theater, Pinocchio met the puppets Harlequin and Punch and others. They were amazed to see him, as he was one of their own kind. The puppet master, Fire Eater, wanted to throw him into the fire, but after seeing Pinocchio's tears, he took pity on him and let him go. Fire Eater even gave Pinocchio 5 gold coins to take to Geppetto. However, on his way home, Pinocchio was tricked by a fox and a cat, who convinced him to bury the coins in the Field of Miracles, where they claimed the coins would grow into a tree full of gold. The fox and the cat led Pinocchio to the field and told him to plant his coins. While Pinocchio slept, they dug up the coins and ran off, leaving him penniless. When Pinocchio realized he'd been fooled, he tried to get help, but no one would listen. He wandered until he met the fairy with turquoise hair, who nursed him back to health after a series of misadventures. Despite her kindness, Pinocchio continued to make poor decisions. Each time he lied, his nose grew longer and longer, and only the fairy's intervention saved him. Pinocchio eventually met a boy named Candlewick, who convinced him to run away to the land of toys, where boys could play all day and never work. Pinocchio thought this was perfect, but he soon discovered the grim truth. Boys who spent too much time in the land of toys were turned into donkeys and sold off to the highest bidder. Pinocchio, now a donkey, was bought by a circus and forced to perform tricks for a cruel master. After many hardships, he was thrown into the sea where the fish nibbled away his donkey skin, transforming him back into a puppet. Pinocchio's final adventure began when he was swallowed by a giant whale. After being swallowed by the whale, Pinocchio discovered Geppetto inside the whale's stomach. Geppetto had been swallowed earlier while searching for Pinocchio. They were trapped inside the dark belly of the whale, surviving on food the whale had swallowed. Pinocchio came up with a plan. He noticed that the whale only opened its mouth when it was sleeping near the surface of the water to breathe. So he and Geppetto waited for the whale to fall asleep with its mouth open. Then Pinocchio helped Geppetto climb onto his back, and they swam out of the whale's mouth while it slept. Though it was a difficult journey across the sea, Pinocchio used all his strength to save his father. They eventually reached safety, marking a key moment of redemption for Pinocchio, as he had now proven his braveness and selfishness. They returned home together, and Pinocchio worked hard to care for Geppetto. Moved by Pinocchio's change of heart, the fairy appeared one last time and granted him his greatest wish. She turned him into a real boy. Pinocchio and Geppetto lived happily ever after.